The fact that we have these violent conflicts and don't think about the profound effect that all of this has on developing brains, the intensity of these moments, the losses and grief that these kids are subjected to, the chronicity of some of these traumas in the setting of the ongoing conflict and being held hostage. Each of these things have different effects on a developing brain. At minimum, developing brains can only tolerate so much, and you can shatter the brain's regulatory system. And once it is shattered, you tend to end up with a variety of psychiatric problems. Post-traumatic stress disorder, I think most people are familiar with. I think what you're seeing there is something that actually was studied in the Second World War. What happens to kids in situations like the London Blitz? They shut down, numbing, dissociating. This is how people survive the unsurvivable. And unfortunately, shutdown floods the brain with cortisol, changes the wiring, and sometimes can result in people with chronic traumatic consequences on their central nervous system. And should we be surprised? Should we be surprised that someone who's lost their family, held in a hostage circumstance where their possibility of going on being is constantly in threat while there is overwhelming stimulus coming in? I mean, this is unthinkable that we don't consider this at all times, what it is doing to children. And by the way, this is on the heels of COVID, when you told kids that they couldn't be, they couldn't interact with their peers when they needed them most developmentally. And by the way, if you do, you're going to kill your family. I mean, you don't think that has an impact on kids? Of course it does.
The other thing that they're having to deal with, obviously, there's all of that, Dr. Drew, but also there's huge media attention, worldwide media attention, and obviously there'll be requests for them to sit down and talk with reporters. Does that help or hurt? I mean, I guess in some sense, maybe it helps because it makes them talk about what they went through, but is it better just that they have time to themselves?
There's sort of two aspects that I worry about in what you're saying. One is making somebody talk about something. Making somebody talk is not necessarily what they need. What they need is safe environment, tolerable doses of learning to come to terms with what happened over long periods of time, and not requiring children to be adult in an adult world where a reporter throws a microphone in their face. That's what we want of an adult. That is not necessarily what a child needs.
How big a problem is survivor's guilt for everybody involved in this, in all of it?
It's a real thing. Most people find a way to live with grief. It's not as though the grief goes away. They learn to deal with it. And a productive way that people learn to deal with these sorts of sort of impossible to understand circumstances is try to make a difference, to try to make meaning of it, and then try to be of service, make a difference, however they understand that, to sort of serve the memory of the person that they have lost.